I came home from Lowe's with a bag of mulch, a sweet tea sweating in the cup holder, and absolutely no idea my neighborhood had decided to declare war on me while I was gone. The second I turned onto Redwood Hollow Drive, I knew something was off. There was this weird little crowd near my property, people pretending not to stare, curtains twitching, one guy walking his dog for way longer than any human needs to walk a golden retriever. Then I saw it. My porch was gone. Not damaged, not taped off, not under repair, gone. Just splintered wood, busted railings, and bright orange construction tape snapping in the wind like somebody had cordoned off a crime scene. And right there, taped crooked to my front door, was a single sheet of paper with the HOA logo stamped at the top, like they were serving a damn federal warrant. Structure removed pursuant to Architectural Violation Code 4.11. That was it. No phone call, no knock on the door, no certified mail, nothing. 30 years of memories turned into a pile of trash before lunch on a Thursday. Now here's the part that really burned me up. That porch wasn't some cheap Home Depot weekend project. My father and I built that thing together in the summer of 1993, hottest summer Georgia had seen in years, just the two of us sweating through our shirts, drinking lemonade from mason jars, arguing over measurements because he trusted his eyes more than a tape measure. The railings came from reclaimed barnwood off my uncle's farm. The swing out front had this old rusty chain that squeaked every time you sat down, and honestly, I love that sound. My daughter took her first steps on that porch. My wife and I sat out there during thunderstorms counting lightning strikes before she passed. Every birthday, every Christmas morning, every late-night conversation after life kicked me in the teeth somehow ended up on that porch. And apparently that offended the Oak Ridge Canyon Homeowners Association. Now, if you've never dealt with an HOA before, let me explain something. These people don't start with bulldozers. First comes the fake politeness, then the passive-aggressive newsletters, then the little violation notices over grass height or mailbox paint, or whether your trash can was visible for 14 minutes too long after pickup day. And leading all of it was Vanessa Mercer, HOA president, retired pharmaceutical sales rep, full-time neighborhood dictator. This woman smiled like a church greeter and threatened people like a cartel accountant. 3 months earlier, she'd stopped by my driveway wearing tennis whites and that frozen Botox smile, talking about modernizing community aesthetics. She kept staring at my porch while saying words like uniformity and property values, which is rich considering half the homes in that neighborhood looked like Tuscan Olive Garden fever dreams with fake stone columns glued onto vinyl siding. I told her the porch wasn't going anywhere. She gave me this tight little smile and said, "We'll see what compliance says." Looking back now, yeah, that wasn't a conversation. That was a warning shot. So I called the HOA office immediately, got voicemail. Called again, voicemail. Finally, I drove straight to the clubhouse, walked in still covered in sawdust from digging around the wreckage, and there sat Vanessa behind this giant polished desk like she was presiding over the Supreme Court. She didn't even stand up, just slid a folder toward me and said, "You were notified multiple times, Mr. Bennett." I opened the folder, photocopies, blurry postage labels, violation letters I had never seen in my life. According to them, my porch violated updated architectural harmony standards because the wood finish didn't match approved community palettes. Community palettes. I swear to God, these people talk like they were designing Versailles instead of policing suburban ranch homes outside Atlanta. I told her they had no legal authority to demolish private property without direct consent or court involvement. And that's when her smile disappeared. "When you signed your HOA agreement," she said, "you agreed to enforcement procedures. Calm, cold, rehearsed. That kind of tone people use when they think power makes them untouchable." Then she hit me with the cherry on top, a $3,200 demolition assessment fee. They tore down my porch and billed me for the privilege. I remember just standing there staring at her, hearing the air conditioner hum, somebody vacuuming down the hallway, and thinking, these people have absolutely no idea who they just picked a fight with. Because what Vanessa Mercer didn't know was before I retired, I spent 22 years working structural compliance and zoning enforcement for Fulton County. I knew city code better than most attorneys, and more importantly, I knew exactly how ugly bureaucracy could get when somebody started pulling the right threads. Now, before I tell you what I did next, let me explain something about HOAs that a lot of people don't understand, because this whole thing wasn't really about a porch. The porch was just the excuse. See, according to standard procedure, most homeowners associations operate through layered pressure, not outright confrontation. They send notices, stack fines, create this atmosphere where people feel embarrassed or isolated. Because statistically speaking, most homeowners will comply long before things ever reach court. Why? Because nobody wants to be that neighbor. Nobody wants their name whispered at the community pool while somebody grills hot dogs nearby, pretending not to gossip. And people like Vanessa know that. That's the real power of an HOA, not the bylaws themselves, but the social pressure wrapped around them like barbed wire under velvet. From a legal perspective, though, what they did to me was dangerously aggressive. HOAs absolutely can enforce architectural standards in many states, sure, but demolition without confirmed due process? That's where things start getting messy fast. Certified notices matter. Hearing opportunities matter. Documentation matters. And if an HOA skips steps because they assume a homeowner won't push back, they expose themselves to liability they usually aren't prepared for. But here's the psychological part nobody talks about. This is a psychological trap. Once a board starts getting away with small overreaches, they slowly convince themselves they are the authority instead of administrators. That shift changes everything. Suddenly rules stop being about protecting the neighborhood and start becoming personal ego weapons. You could see it all over Oak Ridge Canyon. Identical mailboxes, approved curtain colors, complaints over basketball hoops left out overnight. The place looked less like a community and more like a retirement kingdom run by people addicted to control. And honestly, boards like that usually survive because residents are too busy, too tired, or too intimidated to fight back. What Vanessa never realized was she had accidentally targeted the one guy in the neighborhood who understood both construction law and municipal enforcement from the inside out. And once I started digging into their paperwork, oh man, I realized this wasn't just an HOA acting arrogant. This was an HOA sitting on top of a mountain of violations waiting to collapse. So that night, I poured myself a bourbon, sat in a folding chair where my porch swing used to be, and started reading. Not casually either, I mean full obsessive mode. HOA bylaws, county permit records, zoning maps, architectural review approvals, environmental filings. Every boring little document most people would rather eat drywall than look at. By midnight, I already knew two things. First, Vanessa Mercer and the Oak Ridge Canyon HOA board were operating way outside their actual authority. Second, they'd gotten comfortable. And comfortable people make sloppy mistakes. Around 2 in the morning, I found the first crack in the wall. Buried deep inside their amended development agreement was a clause requiring all HOA-funded structural improvements to comply with county commercial use permitting standards if shared amenities exceeded a certain occupancy threshold. That might sound complicated, but translated into normal human language, it meant every fancy little community enhancement they'd built over the years needed inspections, permits, compliance reviews, the whole circus. Problem was, they skipped half of it. The lakeside gazebo? No final electrical inspection. The upgraded tennis court lighting? Improper environmental clearance. The expanded fitness center? Wrong accessibility ramp dimensions under ADA guidelines. Tiny stuff individually, catastrophic when bundled together. And once I saw the pattern, I knew exactly how to hurt them. See, most people think revenge is yelling or lawsuits or slashing tires like some drunk ex-boyfriend movie scene. No, real revenge is paperwork. Real revenge is forcing arrogant people to obey every single rule they weaponized against everyone else. So the next Monday morning, I started making calls. Quiet calls. Professional calls. Former co-workers still working in zoning. Old inspectors. Permit clerks. People who still remembered me from my county days. I wasn't asking for favors exactly. More like directing attention. Hey, you may want to take another look at permit history over in Oak Ridge Canyon. Kinda strange that occupancy upgrades never got reclassified. Might want to verify those electrical sign-offs. Calm voice. Friendly tone. Absolute destruction underneath. Then came the filings. Formal review requests. Compliance challenges. Environmental concerns. Accessibility audits. And because I knew exactly which departments moved slower than molasses and which inspectors hated being embarrassed publicly, I timed everything perfectly. Within 3 weeks, county vehicles started appearing around the neighborhood like vultures circling roadkill. Residents panicked immediately. One morning, the community gym got slapped with a bright red stop work order because their emergency exit hardware wasn't commercial-grade compliant. 2 days later, the pool area got temporarily shut down, pending updated drainage certification. Then inspectors measured the playground mulch depth and found it 2 inches below county safety minimums. 2 inches. That's all it took. Suddenly, Oak Ridge Canyon looked less like a luxury subdivision and more like an active federal investigation. And the best part? I never lied once. Everything I filed was legitimate. Every violation was real. That's what made it beautiful. The neighborhood Facebook page turned into pure chaos. Why is the clubhouse closed? Why are inspectors everywhere? Why are dues increasing? Does anyone know what's happening? Oh, they knew. Maybe not officially, but they knew. Every time I drove past the clubhouse, conversations stopped. People stared. Vanessa especially. You could see the stress carving lines into her face week by week. That Botox smile started cracking. Then came the board meeting. Now, normally those meetings were sleepy little HOA gatherings where retirees argued about shrub height while somebody passed around stale Costco cookies. Not this one. This one looked like a hostage negotiation. Residents packed the room shoulder to shoulder, everybody angry, everybody demanding answers about fines, delays, inspections, legal expenses. Vanessa stood up front trying to maintain control, talking about unexpected municipal complications, but the crowd wasn't buying it anymore. Then somebody asked the question, who reported us? Silence. Dead silence. And slowly, every single head in that room turned toward me. I was sitting in the back wearing an old Braves cap, drinking coffee from a gas station cup like I was there for entertainment, which honestly, I kinda was. Vanessa's face tightened instantly. Mr. Bennett has chosen to escalate private disagreements into community-wide disruption, she snapped. Community-wide disruption. Coming from the woman who demolished my porch while I was buying mulch. Incredible. I stood up slowly, real calm, and said, no ma'am. I just asked the county to enforce the same rules you said mattered so much. You could actually hear people murmuring after that. Because deep down, everybody there knew exactly what kind of board they'd elected. Bullies always look strong until somebody punches back publicly. Then the cracks spread fast. Residents started digging through old notices. Complaints resurfaced. One family admitted they'd been fined over backyard lighting while the HOA itself had installed non-compliant commercial fixtures at the tennis courts. Another homeowner revealed they'd been threatened over fence paint while board members approved unauthorized landscaping contracts without resident voting approval. The illusion of authority started collapsing in real time. And Vanessa? Oh, she got desperate. About a month later, she came marching up my driveway around sunset, heels stabbing into the concrete like she was trying to kill snakes. You've made your point, she said before I even got out of my truck. No hello. No apology. Just anger wrapped in perfume and entitlement. I leaned against the truck door and looked past her toward the empty space where my porch used to be. Funny, I said. Feels like I'm just getting started. I swear I thought smoke might start coming out of her ears. Then came the mistake that finished them. See, while reviewing old survey maps connected to the original development filings, I noticed something odd near the front edge of my property line. Years earlier, during one of the HOA beautification projects, it extended a decorative brick walking path and flower installation several feet beyond common use easement boundaries. Translation? They built HOA property on my land. Not by much, maybe 6 feet. But legally, 6 feet might as well be 6 miles. So I ordered a new certified land survey just to confirm it. Took the paperwork straight to county enforcement and filed a formal encroachment complaint. And let me tell you something. Counties do not play around with boundary violations tied to insured associations, especially not when prior permitting issues already exist. 2 weeks later, contractors were out there jackhammering up the HOA's precious landscaping feature while residents drove by staring like they were watching a public execution. Flower beds ripped out, brick paths demolished, decorative lighting disconnected, thousands and thousands of dollars erased because somebody decided my porch offended their sense of visual harmony. And here's the part that still makes me laugh. Technically, they had to restore my land to its original condition at their own expense. So the same association that destroyed my porch ended up funding the grading prep that helped me rebuild it. Bigger this time too. Wider foundation, reinforced cedar beams, composite decking, recessed lighting, and yeah, I added a hot tub out of pure spite. Fully permitted, fully inspected, county approved down to the last bolt. I even framed the inspection certificate and hung it by the back door. Petty? Maybe, but earned. By the end of the year, Oak Ridge Canyon was a disaster zone financially. Insurance premiums shot up because of ongoing compliance disputes. Residents forced a special board election. 3 members resigned before legal reviews finished. Vanessa Mercer quietly sold her house and moved into a condo development across town. No HOA, which honestly feels like the universe writing comedy. And me? Every morning now I sit on that rebuilt porch with coffee in my hand listening to that new porch swing creak in the breeze. Different swing, same sound. And every once in a while, somebody walking by slows down and asks if all that chaos was really worth it. I usually just smile and say, according to standard procedure, absolutely. Now look, before somebody jumps into the comments calling me the neighborhood supervillain, let me say this. I never wanted a war. I wanted my porch. That's it. I would have accepted a conversation, a mediation meeting, maybe even a compromise if somebody had treated me like a human being instead of a line item on a violation spreadsheet. But that's the danger with power inside small communities. People stop seeing neighbors and start seeing compliance problems. And once that happens, empathy disappears real fast. The lesson here is, rules themselves are not the problem. Every neighborhood needs some structure, or eventually somebody parks 3 broken boats on their lawn and paints their garage neon green. But when rules become tools for ego, control, or social domination, communities rot from the inside out. That's exactly what happened in Oak Ridge Canyon. Vanessa and the board weren't protecting property values anymore. They were protecting authority. And honestly, from a psychological perspective, that happens more often than people realize. Tiny amounts of unchecked power can completely rewire how ordinary people behave. Give somebody a clipboard, a committee title, and enough neighbors too scared to push back. Suddenly, they start acting like suburban royalty. This is a psychological trap a lot of HOA boards fall into. They confuse compliance with respect. But forced obedience is not respect. It's resentment with a smile painted over it. And eventually resentment collects interest. From a legal perspective, this whole mess also proves something important most homeowners never think about. Contracts go both ways. HOA agreements absolutely give boards authority, but they also create obligations. Procedures matter. Notice requirements matter. Due process matters. If a board ignores its own bylaws because it assumes nobody will challenge them, they're gambling with serious liability. Most residents just never realize how much leverage they actually have until it's too late. And trust me, the second you start documenting everything, emails, notices, permits, surveys, the balance of power changes fast. That's why I always tell people, before you react emotionally, learn the system first. Angry people make noise. Prepared people make impact. In my case, I didn't beat the HOA because I yelled louder. I beat them because I understood the machine better than they did. And maybe that's the real reason this story spread around town afterward. It wasn't just revenge. It was a reminder that arrogance eventually runs into consequences, especially when the person you underestimated knows exactly where the weak spots are buried. So now I want to hear from you. Have you ever dealt with an HOA nightmare, a power-hungry board member, or one of those neighborhoods where people care more about mailbox colors than actual humanity? Drop your story in the comments, because trust me, after everything that happened in Oak Ridge Canyon, I know for a fact I'm not the only one. And if you want more stories about petty tyrants, legal loopholes, and people finally getting exactly what they deserve, hit subscribe. Because sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't destruction, it's making arrogant people follow their own rules.